Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So about an hour ago Marvel Concert Champions dropped a deep dive on Tigra, and that was something I was waiting for with really high expectations, and unfortunately I must say that level of my expectations has drastically fallen after I actually watched that video and I thought and analyzed the things that I did see. That being said, I guess the highlight and the headline of the Tigra's deep dive video would be that within 50 hits she was able to deal about 2% of Star-Lord's health as a damage, which would represent as kind of like an average matchup for her. So it means by extension, if you do the math, it would take about give or take 2,500 hits to take down that Star-Lord at the pace she was going. So 2,500 hits to take down 3.3 million health opponent isn't all that promising in that particular matchup. Right, but before we get to that fight in particular, we're going to discuss the things that I did like and some other cool things that I noticed. So first and foremost, her animations are cool. She does have a double hit medium, so that does inflate her attack count, so we do have to keep that in mind. She, just like Stealth Suit Spidey, just like Black Widow Deadly Origins, both of the mediums are double hits, so every hit you do inflict an opponent will be counted as 7 hits on your combo meter, which I'm not against. I have kind of gotten used to it. I don't particularly really see the need for it outside of game designers just kind of having fun designing cooler hit animations, I guess. But it is what it is, and that is what she has. Now, one really cool thing about her animations is her heavy attack. It's kind of like very far reaching, it's quick, and it's leaping forward, and I do like that because that will enable her to kind of like punish a lot of different animation types, different special attacks, different heavy attacks with her that of her own, and that is extremely important for her ability set and for you to be able to actually utilize her ability. So that is a huge plus there from animation department. Additionally, the fact that they gave her the ability to charge heavy indefinitely is extremely important, because you do not want your heavy to be kind of like auto-released in the middle of an opponent's special attack while you're trying to phase it. So I think that was also one of the things that was on the back of my mind that was somewhat concerning, but now that I know for a fact that she can hold her heavy attack pretty much forever, that is just another plus in the tick box over there for Tigra, and that also kind of leads me to believe that her entire play style is going to be obviously quite heavy centric. Additionally, it's going to be quite skill intensive. It's not going to be like a very basic character where you just kind of like mash your full 5-hit combos, drop your special attack and be happy. No, you're going to have to do win a lot of heavy attacks. You're going to have to dash back upon activating your special attacks and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of happening, a lot to keep in mind. I do not necessarily dislike the fact that these characters are more complex or more tricky to play. I personally enjoy it for a lot of different reasons. For instance, I still like playing Ronin and doing all the dashback intercepts, but at the same time it pretty much automatically will discount part of the player base who maybe not be as quick or gifted or just don't want to bother or find it too complex or find it too complicated, and that in my opinion can also kind of like speak against the popularity of the character, just like in a similar sense kind of like where there's still a large amount of people who do not enjoy Quake's playstyle or do not appreciate Taskmaster, who's actually much better champion that people give him credit for, but he's complex to play. So I think Tigra might be suffering a bit of that as well, but only time will tell how well players are actually able to use her. Now, all those being said, it's clear that she has basically two main conditions to have a relatively favorable matchup. Number one is the fact that opponent gains buffs which she can neutralize, therefore she can inflict ruptures on opponent. So unfortunately there aren't as many kind of like champions that trigger buffs when getting hit for the most part. That was a quite common theme in some of the older champions like Iron Man, Iron Patriot, War Machine when they trigger these armor up buffs when they're getting hit. A couple of champions trigger Furies when they get hit, but all in all there is surprisingly small amount of champions who actually trigger buffs when they are getting hit, so that is not going to be overly helpful. Now on the upside, there are champions who trigger buffs when they activate special attacks, which kind of add another subclass of favorable matchups, but again, you really will need to know where to bring her in, because she will not be a fantastic option for an average matchup. You will be looking for either champions with buffs, or especially for champions with multi-hit projectile attacks, because even if opponent has a projectile attack, but if it is a single beam, you will not benefit it from too much for the Tigris abilities, because that will be only one hit, that will be only one rupture, and that will be only 10% of a power bar in gained power, so it will not really help you all that much. Now when you are up against War Machine, for instance, then yes, that will beef up her abilities quite considerably. All of these things being mentioned is pretty much what I explained before, that yeah, her damage output doesn't seem to be good enough to justify her lack of utility. Now her playstyle is going to be quite complex. She's going to have subpar damage output in majority of the matchups, and all right to a good damage output in her favorable matchups, and almost all of that damage is going to come from her level 2. Now if we take a look over here, we can see that Tigra is 101 hits in as a rank 3 6-star against Realm of Legends Black Bolt, and the Black Bolt is largely killing himself as well. So some of the 33% kind of like health mark, Tigra can't even take credit for. Now for rank 3 6-star with a class advantage against a favorable matchup who has projectile in his special attack, if he's throwing level 1, and a champion that does gain buffs consistently and frequently, as often pretty much as it's going to get in any matchup, for this fight to be at 101 hits is not really speaking all that great for her, in my opinion. And the biggest kind of like display here, we can see that Tigra is in like an average matchup against the Star-Lord. We can see that her combo hit count here is 50, and we can see that Star-Lord is still at 98% health. So that means, again, so if 50 hits, and because we can see here she's in the special 2 attack animation, so she likely has had time to launch at least 1, possibly 2 special attacks. So she's basically well within her fight rhythm and her average damage output dealing pace, I would say. And at this point we can see that these hits are really small, as in like 637 if you don't crit. Then we can see like 2000 crit in the previous image. There are no hit boxes, but you can see that she's only ticking away for 50. And where are points where she's also connecting a couple of hits here. We can see that she's non-critting for 1000. She's hitting for 1600 as a rank 3 6-star for vast majority of these occasions. So I think here is quite evident, because yeah, if 50 hits deal 2% of damage, then 500 hits would deal 20% of the damage, and 2500 hits would be at 100%, and the fight would be won. Now I reasonably do understand that there would be definitely ways to beef up her damage output via boosts, via synergies, via maybe more complex mastery setup, or perhaps she doesn't have masteries on at all. But for a champion that really has no real utility outside of being able to phase the projectile special attacks, which is cool, which is gonna be useful, but outside of that one thing that she has going for her, she has no immunities, no other kind of like things going for her outside of like stagger. She's very simple in a sense of what she can do. She can hit the opponent, put damage over time on the opponents, and she can phase projectiles. And with that, this damage output, which I again fully expect could be increased in like a realistic game scenario, she'd probably get him down in like 1500 hits or something, but it's still rubbish, man, for an average matchup. So I think that that is the bigger kind of like bombshell here that I can take now. Obviously, I fully expect her to be a champion where she will have the matchups where she can shine, for sure. CCP will do a fantastic job of finding her strengths and finding her favorable matchups, for sure. And there will be occasional use to her, absolutely. But I do not think that any potential uses that can be found for her based on her ability set will offset this damage mark in like an average kind of like base matchup. And the damage, we could see that, yeah, it's like rank 3, 18 KPI champion, critting for like 2000, critting for 600. It's just not quite good enough at a time where Act 6 opponent attack and health values are beefed up to a point where currently Model Concept Champions, great damage is a baseline expectation. Like effectively, champion can have maximum amount of utility, and champion can be absolutely amazing. If he hits like a noodle hand, then a champion will not be used. It's quite simple as that, because even if a champion has a great matchup and he's good at dealing with a specific fight, if you have to commit to a 300 hit fight, but instead you might end up using some other champion who deals with that fight almost as well, but can get it done in 50 hits, then you can go with the 50 hits, because nobody wants to be in 300 hit fights. And at a time where Model Concept Champions is kind of like as diverse as it is, I just don't think that releasing this poor of a damage output champion with kind of like her main accent being damage is just kind of like good enough. Now, again, I'm sure she's going to be fun. I'm sure she's going to be interesting. I'm sure she's going to have some interesting matchups. She has stagger. She can face projectile special attacks. But we have champions who do all of it and better. In my eyes, quite honestly, she's pretty much worse version of Hood. Yeah, because Hood has like 90% chance to face projectiles when he's invisible. Hood has stagger, but also Hood has shock, Hood has fate seal, Hood has power steal, Hood has better life steal. So yeah, that is where I more or less lie on Tigra. Unfortunately, she's not a champion that, again, I would pursue maybe outside of like an early access bundle, because if yeah, the situation wouldn't be as it was. I do like trying in the early access bundles because of the added extra 6-star shots and the boosts, but in general, no, she is not a champion that I would put my money into Cavalier Crystals at any given time. Realistic. Unfortunately, I really do hope that she's going to be great. Now, one last thing that I wanted to mention that is really cool, and I absolutely love that Kabam did, and this is something I hope they would do with more characters. She has an Easter egg, and her Easter egg is that if she licks herself, as in like if you stand still for a long enough period of time, then her animation is to lick her wounds, and that actually gives you a tiny amount of heal. And I just can't help but to think in my head is like, how cool would it be to be in a fight where that tiny amount of heal actually makes like all the difference? When you like literally like last 4%, you're hardly able to take parries, like you're dropping down on like 2%, but you just lick yourself a couple of times and you are able to like parry another hit or something. So I don't know, obviously that's nothing kind of like game breaking for her character, but I just do find it really interesting. So I wish they would do this with far more characters. This is like one of the things that, even as I'm trying to judge a character objectively and realistically as I can, no matter how like bad that heal is or how little it actually benefits her, just put a smile on my face, and I couldn't help but to think it is a cool ability, and I wish, yeah, that Kabam does it a lot more and a lot more often. But yeah, I think that will put it all together now for the review of Deep Dive for the Tigra. Unfortunately, as I said, it kind of killed my curiosity, because my initial video reading her abilities was basically titled Tigra Has Me Intrigued, and now not so much anymore. Now I looked at her numbers and yeah, no thank you. I'll wait till she's added to like a featured 5-star hero crystal and hope I can pull her then. But yeah, all that being said, I think we are pretty much done here. And that means that it's time for Baby Yoda drinking from his sippy cup. As you are watching the Baby Yoda, do not forget to hit that like button, sub button, all the good buttons. Don't hit any bad ones. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Tigra, what you think about that Easter egg in particular. But yeah, if you didn't like the video, however, well, then you are welcome to escort yourselves out. And yeah, that is me done for today, and I'll catch you guys soon. See ya.